we're going to be talking about the manager situation now. There's been quite a few reports over this morning and yesterday about Antonio Conte to PSG, and also Pochettino as well. I don't know if you know, but Pochettino was booed on his final game. Well, I don't know if it was the final game of the season, but the game that they won the league in, they read his name out on the tannoy and he got booed. Apparently he is not happy at life with PSG. But anyway, let me read you the reports. La Parisian was the ones that broke it, and they say Antonio Conte has offered himself to PSG on an initial 2-year engagement. Ali Gold pushed back on that and said that people around Antonio Conte say that the PSG rumours are not true. It gets interesting a bit with this Gary Jacobs from the Times interviewing article, and he says Antonio Conte has been told that he'll be backed in the transfer market this summer, but Conte wants to be sure about Tottenham's vision to close the gap on the top four sides and get back into the Champions League. He follows on from that, talking about PSG, and he says PSG are finalising sacking Pochettino and will consider Antonio Conte as his replacement. Should this materialise, it is possible that Maurizio Pochettino will then complete a Tottenham Hotspur return. Antonio Conte is interested in succeeding Pochettino at PSG. The French club are finalising the sacking, although Zidane is the first choice. Matt Law, just recently, this article has come up, and he says that Conte is believed to be one of the candidates for PSG. But sources close to the 52-year-old are adamant that there has been no contact yet with PSG. Conte will wait until the end of the season before holding talks with the club over whether he will continue at Spurs next season. Antonio Conte has no contact with PSG about succeeding Pochettino. And Get French Football now was saying that Tottenham chairman Daniel Levy has been in regular contact with Pochettino in recent months, attempting to convince him to return to the club. Pochettino has told the PSG board that he does not want to continue with the club, and the feeling is mutual. The manager has kept his cards close to his chest regarding a Tottenham Hotspur return. I've been saying quite consistently over the past year, actually, that I believe that, well, ever since Conte's joined, that I think that Poch will be our next manager after Conte. I didn't think it will come this soon, but I still don't think it's going to come this soon. I do believe Conte will be our manager next season. I don't know if that's more hope than actually what I'm actually thinking, but I just don't think Conte will leave this summer. I do think Daniel Levy will somewhat back him in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I want to believe that. I really want to believe that. I mean, history tells me that I'm foolish, but I want to believe that Levy wants an elite manager and he wants to back him with all the funds, and he wants us to go for trophies, and he wants us to have a chance of the best chance possible of winning it. But another part of me thinks that Levy might actually not be that bothered with Conte leaving. Another part actually in my head tells me that he knows Pochettino can work within a budget. He knows that Conte is very demanding. He's going to want, and as Matt Law says, he's going to demand 6 players in the summer. And he's going to demand all these funds and big money and big wages and all this stuff. And he's going to want big, and he wants to overhaul and everything like that. He's worked with Pochettino before. He knows that Pochettino is willing to work within a lot more, less demanding when it comes to transfers and stuff like that. He knows that Pochettino might not be as not to say that Pochettino doesn't want to win leagues and stuff, but he might not be as demanding in his ambition to start competing for the league next season as Conte might be, and might not put the board under as much pressure as Conte did. As much as Poch tried to in his time, especially late on, he never quite he's never quite on Conte's level when he comes to pressurising boards and stuff. So there is a small part of me that does think, if Conte, would Levy stand in Conte's way if he does want to go to PSG and he has an agreement with Poch? Part of me thinks he might go with it, and he knows the Spurs fans, as much as we will be angry at him letting Conte go, are we really going to start booing Pochettino if he comes back? Probably not. We'll get behind him.
No, well, you wouldn't be boo Pochettino, it'd boo Daniel Levy. I mean, he would be the culprit in all this. And at the end of the day, if Conte did want to go, Levy shouldn't stand in his way. Levy should let Conte go if he wants to go, because you don't want a manager that doesn't want to be here at the end of the day. We saw Conte when he didn't want to be at Chelsea, what he was like on the sidelines and stuff like that. If Conte doesn't want to be here, no one's going to stand in his way at the end of the day.
No, but it's not about... No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying if Conte is demanding something, right? He's saying, I want this, or I want these things, or I'm going to threaten to leave. I'm worried that Levy, instead of matching his ambition, will say, okay, leave. That's what I'm worried about, and then we'll bring Pochettino back, and then Levy will bank on the fact that there'll still be a good feeling around Tottenham and the fan base because Pochettino's coming back, and that'll install a good feeling. He might.
I don't think it will.
He might. Look, if Pochettino came back, as much as I don't want that right now, and I'd 100% prefer Conte to stay, and I think he's the best man for Tottenham right now in terms of taking us to the next level. Are we really, if Pochettino did come back to Tottenham, is there really going to be a negative feeling around that?
In my opinion will be negative. I'll be negative. I love Pochettino, and I'd love to see him back at this club. But
once the season starts, are you really going to be negative? We get some business done, and we get Pochettino back.
It's what it represents. What represents bringing Poch back. It represents that, again, another world-class manager through this door that we didn't back.
Correct.
And that's what it represents. And unfortunately, I think Levy's job should be untenable if Conte goes this summer. It should be, no matter who comes through the door after that. I don't care, because you've got Jose Mourinho, who he hired. If Roma win the Conference League this year, that proves that Jose Mourinho is probably not a washed-up manager. And if Jose got what he wanted from the board, then he could have been a success here. So that's another blot on Levy's CV. If Conte leaves here after half a season, I mean, that's ridiculous. It will be a disgrace. And I don't think Levy's job will be tenable after that. I really don't. And if Pochettino comes back, yes, it's probably the best out of a really bad situation, but it's just what it represents. It completely represents mismanagement from the board once again.
That's what I'm worried about. And I'm just saying, there's a part of me that thinks that Levy, that Daniel Levy might see that as for him and the finance and all that stuff, the best situation. And that's what I'm worried about. And when it comes to all this Conte and Pochettino talk, because it's kind of like a choice of either give Conte exactly what he wants, big money, even whether we get Champions League or not, you have to spend a lot of money to satisfy him, or if there's a clause in the contract that you can leave after 6 months or whatever, let Conte go to PSG, let him get all the money he wants there, and bring Pochettino in and have a manager who's going to be more willing to work within his budget. And that's what I'm worried about.
The fact of the matter with Pochettino, right? Yeah, he was willing to work in that tight budget at Spurs, but it got to a stage where he was calling for that painful rebuild. He was calling for us to act like a big club. Correct. He was calling us to have this big. I don't know what the analogy he used is, but I can't remember, about the big stadium and putting big furniture in. Can't remember the
nice
analogy.
House, but no, it needs
that's
nice
the one.
furniture.
Nice house that needs nice furniture, and that's still the case. That's still the case right now, even more so potentially right now. So, if Pochettino was to come here, he also would need to be heavily backed.
The problem is that Conte and Pochettino are very different managers in the way they play. Very different systems, very different ways of playing.
Exactly.
And we have spent so much time now that over the last 6-7 months under Conte, learning his system, learning his way of playing, trying to perfect it. Still not perfect, especially with the players we have, but we've definitely, the majority of the squad, I believe, even though the last 2 games have gone how they've gone, I do believe the majority of the squad have got to grips with how he wants to play, and are fully aware of the system, and we've almost got it like clockwork for a lot of games this season. And if we let go if Conte does leave in the summer, then all of a sudden you have to rip that all up, and you have to start a completely new project again. You have to start Pochettino's way of playing again. Although quite a few players played under Poch, you still have to. All the new players have to learn his way of playing. Do Son and Kane want to go back to that? How they were playing before? Do we have to? It's a completely new project. We have to get even like younger players who are fitting Pochettino's way of playing. You have to get his profile players instead of Conte's profile player, which are two very different profiles, and that might set us back. We might again be going into next season if we get Pochettino in, with the fact that we might not get top 4 again. Whereas if we sit with Conte, we're going for big things next season. That's the aim. We're going for trophies. We want to challenge for big things, and that's his ambition. Whereas we get Pochettino, I feel like that ambition won't be there. It's not we're going for big things. It's like, okay, we're going to try and get top 4 again, maybe have a cup run, and that's what we're looking for next season if we go to Pochettino under a new project. So that's why I'm feeling like it would be less expensive for Conte to have Pochettino here.
For Levy, yeah.
Sorry, less expensive for Levy, yeah. That's just what I'm worried about. Obviously, and if there is any truth that Conte has got in contact with PSG, obviously we've heard it's not true. Matt Law says there's absolutely no truth.
And Ali Gold, yeah.
Ali Gold says absolutely.
But let's be honest, the news out of Tottenham will be that. The news out of Tottenham will be that.
I'm not going to say, yeah, it's true. Yeah. Exactly. Les Parisiens are supposed to be very reliable. That's the worry. And they're saying that Conte has offered himself for 2 years. Or potentially, maybe it's like a backup plan for him in case things go tits up at Tottenham. But
I do feel that
Zidane.
I do feel like Zidane is like a match made for PSG. I mean,
but apparently he wants to go to take over from
Deschamps.
And that could be too big of a job to turn down if that's in the running. If there is any truth,
Deschamps is leaving after the World Cup, isn't he? Is that right?
I believe so. If there is any truth though that Conte has made contact, then that would annoy me, to be honest, because at this stage of the season when we need everyone's concentration on one thing and getting the results, like if Conte's focus is like backup plans in case things go wrong right now, then that isn't right. And that shouldn't be the case. That would really I'm not saying that is the case because hopefully, from what we're hearing, it's not true. But if there is any truth to that, then that's a terrible situation to be in.
Yeah, I know. James Smith here in the comments has it spot on. He says Poch is Mr. Spurs, but it's going to be a step backwards, not a step forwards.
I'm not saying this. I completely agree with that. I completely agree. Conte is a much more elite manager than Poch, as much as I rate Poch. And we might talk about Poch in 10 years' time as being an elite manager. But right now, he's an excellent manager, but he's not elite. He's not Pep. He's not Klopp. He's not Conte. He's not on that level.
Top 5 managers in the world.
Exactly. This is the kind of caliber we're talking about. Pochettino is an excellent manager, and he did an unbelievable job. Still to this day, he did an underrated job at Tottenham. Still, people don't give him the respect he deserves.
He's our best manager in Premier League history.
Yeah, and I think the job he did with us, we're seeing now how difficult it was. You know what I mean? To get us 5 consecutive top 4 finishes, a Champions League final, despite the fact he didn't win any trophies. So I'm not saying that we wouldn't be in a decent situation if Pochettino did come back, but I'm saying we have right now an elite coach who we need to make sure we make the most of. And if we let him go, because he's not going to be backed, because he's not getting what he thinks are the right tools to succeed at this club, then of course that's a step backwards. Of course that's the project that we have now being ripped up. We're literally ripping up a project after 6 months if that happens, and we're starting a complete new one. And when everyone knows at the start of a project, it takes time. It took time in Pochettino.
How many projects are we going to rip up?
It took
How many projects? We ripped up the Mourinho project. We ripped up the Nuno project. We're going to rip up the Conte project. It's a joke, this football club.
It took Pochettino a year in the first time round to get everything across. And with the squad we have now, he's going to want completely different players to what Conte wanted. It means new scouting network and all that kind of stuff.
It might actually be cheaper to keep Conte, because Conte has...
If you want 6 new players...
Yeah, but Pochettino might need way more than 6 new players. How many of this current squad actually fit into a Pochettino system? None of the wingbacks do now anyway. None of the fullbacks do. I mean...
I think Reguilon might be a bit better under
Reguilon.
Under Poch than he is.
But Eric Dyer was falling out of favour with Pochettino anyway. The midfield, is he going to want to keep Højbjerg? Is he going to keep Winks? Is probably going to be gone anyway. The strikers, Lucas Moura was hardly getting a game under Pochettino anyway. Steven Bergwijn might thrive under Pochettino. I don't know. I think the rebuild will be more under Poch than it will be under Conte.
I don't know. I think it's...
The only difference is that Poch will go for a different caliber of player. He'll go for maybe a less expensive type of player, young and up and coming, that Daniel Levy likes. Exactly. Where Conte is going for more ready-made kind of style of player.
Yeah.
But I think the number of players that we need to bring in will probably be less under Conte than it will be under Poch.
The caliber, or sorry, the
The
what?
number, the volume.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think he'll be. I think Pochettino's more willing to work with what he has than Conte. Conte has to work with what he has because that's what he has. But I don't think he wants to. Right? If he wants to get rid of Emerson and the wing backs. He wants up to 6 new players. Even a lot of us are saying that's not enough. But like,
Yeah, but when Poch was at us, he was calling for these rebuilds. He was calling for this. He was calling for that.
Yeah,
so
but
he was willing to work under the constraints, but he didn't want to either.
yeah, but the squad now, a lot of the players, it's a very different squad to what he had when he left. Apart from obviously Lloris, Kane, Son, obviously Davis and Dyer are still there. We've got a few heads, but a lot of them has changed. All these new players he's got to work with to mould in how he wants to mould them. And we saw how good he is at making players better than they are in his role and his system. And he would back it, like with Kulusevski as well, and Bentancur, I'm sure he would back himself for a lot of these players to not just want new player, all these new players, but to work a lot more. Obviously, he's going to want new players, but I don't think he's going to want as many or as expensive as Conte would. And that's why I've just got a horrible, horrible feeling that Levy wouldn't mind letting Conte go to PSG, because I reckon it's less of a headache for him as well. I reckon that's why I hope he's not thinking, but I fear that he is, because we just know Levy. We know he would rather have someone who's not going to be demanding, who's not going to be on his case all the time, and someone like Pochettino who just likes to get down to work on the coaching, on the training pitch and all this stuff, and his large focus is there.
But then where does that leave as well, like Fabio Paratici as well? Because Fabio Paratici, obviously, we heard when he came in, like he prefers the Conte style of play, the more defensive, you know what I mean? 3 at the back. Will Paratici be able to work with Pochettino?
I hope so.
Because I don't know if he will be. I mean, obviously it's up in the air, but Paratici brings in the players of the mould. I mean, he didn't exactly bring in Nuno players, did he?
He didn't exactly. Well, who knows?
Like the players that he brought in with Nuno, hardly any of them worked apart from Romero.
Nuno barely played them, didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what it means for Paratici. Does it mean he moves on as well if Conte moves? That's also another reality, and that's why I think top 4 is so important, because I think.
And the recruitment under Pochettino was disastrous after Paul Mitchell left.
Yeah.
So if we're going to bring Poch in, we're going to need to bring someone with him, a director of football with him, that they have the same philosophy of football.
Correct. All I'm saying is, this is why I was talking about top 4, how important it is, because I think the reality of it going wrong with Conte and the budget and him being demanding and all that kind of stuff, there's much more. It's much more likely that happens if we don't get top 4. If we do get top 4, the likelihood is he gets the money, he stays. Kane's motivated to stay here and be at his best and everything like that. I think that it's a much more smoother transition into next season if we do get top 4. If we don't, then the dominoes could fall in that way. I'm not saying they will. Nothing's a guarantee in football. No one knows what's going to happen. I'm just saying logically how I'm thinking about it. If we don't get top 4, the dominoes are more likely to fall in the way of Conte not being happy with the money he's getting, not being backed, him leaving, Pochettino coming in, and then starting a new project. That just seems. I'm not saying it seems likely that will happen. It seems more likely than if we do get top 4. Yeah. That's just what I'm worried about.
I just think like the landscape of football at the moment and the current transfer market, which we're about to go into. It's more likely that Conte can get more players of his ilk in this situation, even without top 4, at good prices that maybe Daniel Levy can't kind of miss out on these kind of deals.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
I still think it's likely Conte will say if we don't get top 4. I'm just saying the reality that I don't want to come to fruition could do more likely if we don't finish top 4.
And everyone can do without this bloody uncertainty anyway.
Exactly.
It's like this club, the future of this club has been uncertain basically since Pochettino left.
Yeah, pretty
We've been it's just so frustrating, this football club.